So why the heck does anyone want to come to Chicago anyways? It's dangerous, right? Well, yeah, it is, I guess. But it's a fantastic city. It's got some of the country's best museums, restaurants, hotels, shopping, and if I do say so myself, some of the best people. For a big city, it actually is a very warm and inviting place. But where the heck do you park? Good question. Well, let's talk about it. There are a few options. There's not that many options, unfortunately. Chicago is probably one of the most challenging cities in the country to boondock in. It's from my experience. So, what are your options? A lot of people who come to Chicago in an RV, they park at, it's called the McCormick Center. And it's a big convention center. It's right on the lake, and it's just south of downtown. Drawback is that it's, as far as I know, $30 a night, and it's just a parking lot. There are no hookups, there's no electricity or dumping. There is 24-hour security, but $30 a night is expensive. But people pay it because it's easy, it's convenient, yeah, I have never done it, but if you want to be close to downtown, I guess it's a good option. Or I don't know if it's a good option, but it may be the only option. So that's one. Unfortunately, parking on the streets of Chicago is pretty much out of the question. Most neighborhoods have zone parking, so only residents with stickers, special stickers, can park on the streets overnight. And even in the residential areas that do not have the zone parking, you run the risk of getting a ticket for not having a City of Chicago sticker on your window. So that's even for passenger vehicles. So that's a little risky too. The entire city has a restriction on parking any sort of Class B, RV, anything overnight on the streets. The only thing that's allowed on the streets overnight are passenger vehicles. So there's another obstacle. I have heard people say that they have found industrial areas to park in, but most of those that I'm aware of are on the west side and the south side, and you probably aren't completely safe there. There are plenty of places to park during the day. Well, you can park on pretty much any street during the daytime, if you can find one big enough for your rig. It is pretty easy to find one around Grant Park, which is the city's main downtown park right on the lakefront. It's Millennium Park is part of Grant Park, and there are streets that cross it in several places, and I think most of those have metered parking, and generally it's pretty easy to park an RV in those areas. But where are you going to park if you don't want to park, if you don't want to pay $30 a night? You have some options. I'm not sure if any of them are great though. So the Cabela's and the Walmarts in the city, and also even in the suburbs, as far as I know, none of them allow overnight parking. You can park at the Cabela's in Hammond, Indiana, which is not far. Maybe people don't realize, but Indiana actually pretty much goes right up to the city line of Chicago. So Hammond, Indiana is, I believe, the first town over the border. You can park at the Cabela's. I don't think you can park at the Walmarts there, as far as I know. But Cabela's allows one night free, just one night though. I believe Hammond has a train, so you can jump in the train and head into the city too and leave your RV there. And I kind of recommend that because you see almost no RVs in the city. It's just too hard to drive. There are lots of low clearance bridges. And I would say if you're going to go to that McCormick Center parking lot that costs $30, you better Google and find out a safe route, because some of the routes around there are not, the bridges are going to be too low for you. Another option is some of the area towns do not have parking restrictions for overnight parking on the streets. Most do though. I would say probably at least 90% of the suburbs and towns around Chicago do have restrictions for overnight parking. So basically you can't park on the streets from, I think it's usually 2 a.m. to 5 a.m. But I did find one town that's very close to the border of the city, close to public transportation, both the L, which is the city train, and the Metro, which is the area commuter train. It's called Des Plaines. Look right here, Des Plaines, and I know that's not how the French would pronounce it, but that's how us Midwesterners pronounce it. It's a decent place. There's plenty of restaurants and shopping, but they do not have restrictions for overnight parking. And I have successfully stayed on the streets there. There are lots of industrial and office areas, and that's where I would recommend. You can park in residential areas, but I don't know, you might cause some attention if you pull up in front of somebody's house and camp. So I would stick to the business areas, and there's plenty of it there. You can jump on the train and be downtown within, I think, less than half an hour. So in my opinion, probably your best option. Now, where the heck do I park? Well, I have friends that own a place, and they have an extra parking spot. It's in an alley, it's off an alley, which is not ideal to be in this an alley in the city. And I have to maintain my stealthness, because they do own the spot and they can allow anyone to park there that they want, but a dude parking or living in a van in a big city, people aren't going to take kindly to that. So I stay very stealth. And one more place that I stayed for a few days and I really enjoyed, I made at least one video in that area, was a town called Kankakee. Again, I'll put it right here, Kankakee, Illinois, and Bourbonnais, Illinois. There are two towns right next to each other. They have a lot of history, interesting, pretty places with beautiful parks, and there's a lot to see out there. And it's pretty rural. It's not even really a suburb. And you can park at Walmarts there, and I've successfully also parked in hotel parking lots there. They're a little bit more laid back because it's not in or right next to Chicago. They're a little more lenient with big vehicles. I think they're used to seeing RVs and obviously semis. So they're going to allow you to stay. I had no problem staying there whatsoever. The thing is that it's like, I think it's not 2 hours, but it's probably a good hour and a half into the city of Chicago. But if you want a place to stay, a good home base, I think that's a good option too. So again, I wish I had some better options for you. I do recommend coming to Chicago. It's a fantastic city, but definitely not RV friendly. So, but Chicago. Well, thanks for watching, everybody. See you later.